In our headlines on this Friday, May 9th, here in South Korea. The division between the leadership of the Conservative Party and the party's candidate over a potential coalition appears to have deepened, while the Liberal Party's presidential contender continues his regional tour ahead of the official campaigning period starting next Monday. And US President Donald Trump announces a trade deal with the UK, but details remain limited as talks continue in semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. Meanwhile, the Catholic Church ushers in its first American pope as cardinals on Thursday elected Pope Leo XIV as the 267th pontiff. We start yet again on the local political front. The Conservative Party remains embroiled in internal conflict over a possible coalition. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon is standing by live on the line with the latest. Do-yeon, welcome. So I hear the party's presidential candidate and the leadership of the party remain at odds.
Sunny, at odds might be an understatement at this point. For the first time since winning the PPP presidential primary, Kim Jong-un attended a full floor meeting at the National Assembly earlier today, a move that initially seemed like an attempt at reconciliation. He took the podium, told lawmakers he loved them, making a heart shape with his arms, but then doubled down on his criticism of the leadership and again ruled out any merger with Han before Sunday. Take a listen to Kim and the party's interim chair Kwon Young-se's response.
Even now, the party leadership is using every unlawful and unjust means to remove me and install an independent candidate as our party's nominee.
I won't say much, but if someone wants to be a true leader, a greater leader, they must be willing to let go of themselves.
Now, following those remarks, Kwon abruptly left the meeting. Kim followed soon after. As he exited, several lawmakers tried to persuade him to stay and talk, but Kim pushed his way through, showing just how strained things have become. Now, candidate registration at the National Election Commission opens tomorrow and runs through Sunday. Han Duck-soo says he won't register unless a merger happens beforehand. Kim, meanwhile, accuses the leadership of trying to oust him and has filed for court intervention asking to block any further PPP convention aimed at replacing him. He insists no merger can happen before the 11th, the registration deadline, while Han says he won't register, as I said, an independent at all if there's no agreement.
Right, I see. Meanwhile, Do-yeon, what's the latest regarding the survey that the Conservative camp has been conducting?
That's right, Sunny. The party held a two-day vote among registered vote members along with a public opinion poll to decide who should be the PPP sole nominee. The member vote ended at 4 p.m. today, and the public poll wrapped up at 1 p.m. We're told the results will be tallied within 2 hours and announced later today. The vote is one of the few things the leadership pushed forward despite Kim's strong objections. I'll have the results in a later newscast. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Do-yeon, thank you for the latest from the Conservative camp, and do keep us posted. Liberal Party candidate Lee Jae-myung, for his part, entered the final leg of his regional tour ahead of the official campaign period starting next week. Our political correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung began a two-day visit to the Gyeongsang-do provinces today to meet with residents. It marks his final regional trip before the official campaign kicks off on Monday, and he chose to focus on areas known as conservative strongholds. At his first stop in Gyeongju, Gyeongsangbuk-do province, Lee said the president is just a tool chosen by people and encouraged voters to choose a trustworthy worker. He also appealed to voters by pledging full National Assembly support for the upcoming APEC summit in the city.
I'm sure the people of Gyeongju will help build not just a better city, but a new and hopeful Korea for the people, one that's for the people and respects the people.
Ahead of the official campaign, Lee's camp introduced its strategy for the presidential race. The camp decided to focus on national unity with a brand identity using both blue and red. It highlighted 3 key points, ending what it called insurrection and restoring democracy, helping Korea become a global leader, and building a united nation. Meanwhile, following the Supreme Court's decision on Lee's election law violation case, the DP, which has been describing it as political interference, continues to urge an investigation into the top court's ruling. This comes despite the removal of a major legal hurdle for Lee as the High Court postponed a rehearing and review of its verdict until after the presidential election. Party floor leader Park Chan-dae said on Friday that the best way for Chief Justice Cho Lee-dae to protect the judiciary's honor and do what's right was to step down before it was too late. Judges from around the country have decided to hold an extraordinary meeting on May 26 to discuss the controversy surrounding the Supreme Court's ruling on Lee. 신하영, Arirang News.
On the economic front, Korea's current account remained in positive territory for the 23rd month in a row in March, with a surplus of over $9 billion. Our Moon Jae-myung covers the latest findings.
South Korea's current account remained in the black in March for the 23rd month in a row. Data from the Bank of Korea released on Friday shows that the country's current account registered a surplus of $9.14 billion for the month. This figure marks a sharp increase compared to the same period last year and is significantly higher than February's figure. It comes as the goods balance, what tracks exports and imports of products and accounts for the largest portion of the current account, registered a surplus of almost $8.5 billion. Overall exports rose by 2.2% year-on-year to $59.3 billion on strong demand for IT products. Specifically, chip exports reversed a one-month decline, increasing by 12% year-on-year. Outbound shipments of computers also climbed sharply, rising by 32% year-on-year. Exports of non-IT products, including pharmaceuticals and cars, also rose, while petroleum products and steel products saw a decline. On the other hand, the services balance continued to remain in the red, owing to deficits in the travel and other business services account. However, the deficit amount narrowed compared to February. Looking at the first 3 months of this year, the cumulative current account surplus totaled more than $19 billion, which is larger than the $16 billion recorded during the same period last year. However, uncertainties lie ahead concerning new tariff measures by the Trump administration.
Although the first quarter surplus was higher than last year, new U.S. tariffs are expected to have a stronger impact. This could result in the current account surplus being smaller than initially projected.
Meanwhile, imports rose by 2.3% year-on-year, driven by strong demand for capital goods, any physical asset used for production, and consumer goods. Moon Jae-myung, Arirang News.
Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump and his British counterpart Keir Starmer have touted a trade deal, but details remain limited as broader negotiations continue. Lee Jae-myung has the latest.
Britain became the first country to strike a trade deal with the United States on Thursday since U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping reciprocal tariffs announced last month. Nothing was officially signed during the Oval Office event announcing the trade deal, and many specifics about the deal were not immediately clear. According to President Trump, the final details are being written up and will be made official in the coming weeks. However, according to a fact sheet from the White House, the trade deal will keep in place a 10% blanket U.S. tariff on UK imports. It will also adjust tariffs on UK cars so that the first 100,000 vehicles imported from British car makers each year would be subject to a 10% rate, with additional vehicles facing a 25% tariff. Speaking to workers and reporters during a visit to a car factory in West Midlands, England on Thursday, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer praised the deal, calling it historic.
And I'm really pleased to announce to you, and I wanted to come to you to announce that we've agreed the basis of a historic economic prosperity deal. And that is a deal that will protect British businesses and save thousands of jobs in Britain. Really important, skilled, well-paid jobs.
The deal will see U.S. tariffs on British cars slashed from 27.5% to 10%. Also, import duties on steel and aluminum will be reduced to zero. Lee Jae-myung, Arirang News.
The Catholic Church, meanwhile, has ushered in its first American Pope as cardinals on Thursday elected Pope Leo XIV as the 267th pontiff. Our Shin Se-byung covers this latest development.
As white smoke billowed from the chimney of the Vatican Sistine Chapel at 6:05 p.m. on Thursday local time, the world welcomed a new pope. Cardinal Robert Prevost, now known as Leo XIV, has become the first American pope in the over 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church. Emerging in the traditional white cassock, the new pope appeared on the balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square to deliver his first message to the world.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
The 69-year-old was elected on the fourth round of voting just 2 days after the conclave began, with at least two-thirds of the 133 cardinal votes needed to confirm his selection. His election comes 17 days after the death of his predecessor, Pope Francis. In the Vatican, the atmosphere was one of celebration as the faithful welcomed the newly elected pontiff.
Having the leader of the Catholic Church be from the same country as I am I just felt very proud.
Really happy. It's a big surprise and a big blessing for the church and for the church in the United States also, and the church in the Americas. Yeah.
U.S. President Donald Trump also took to social media, saying it's an honor to see the first American pope. Back in his hometown of Chicago, the mood was equally celebratory.
Very surprised and then elated. It's exciting, American. It's nice for us.
Born in 1955 in Chicago, Leo XIV served in Peru for 2 decades, working with indigenous communities and the poor before being appointed Archbishop in 2015. In 2023, he was elevated to Cardinal by Pope Francis and took on the influential role of Prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, overseeing key church appointments. The name Leo, from the Latin word for lion, symbolizes strength, courage, and leadership in the Catholic tradition. The last pope to bear the name Leo XIII, who served for 25 years from 1878, is credited with laying the foundation for modern Catholic teaching by addressing the social challenges of the industrial era. Cardinal Prevost's choice of the name Leo XIV is seen as a nod to this legacy. His diverse background, combining North American roots and deep Latin American connections, is being viewed as a potential bridge within the global church, appealing to both conservative and progressive factions. Looking ahead, Leo XIV is expected to visit South Korea in 2027 for the next World Youth Day. This would mark the fourth visit by a pope to South Korea and the first in 13 years since Pope Francis visited in August 2014. 신새벽 Arirang News.
Russia and China have reportedly called on the international community to surrender sanctions and pressure on North Korea and to seek diplomacy in tackling tensions on the Korean peninsula. Our foreign affairs correspondent Peunji reports.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping met in Moscow on Thursday local time and signed a joint statement where they pledged to strengthen cooperation in all areas, including military ties. During their talks in the Kremlin, the two leaders cast themselves as defenders of a new world order, no longer dominated by the U.S., amid growing pressure from the West.
Our common heroic past and combat brotherhood are a reliable foundation for the development and strengthening of Russian-Chinese relations. And these relations have reached the highest level in history.
The two sides also addressed global issues, including those on North Korea. They called on other nations to drop sanctions against Pyongyang, while saying issues on the Korean peninsula must be resolved only through diplomatic means.
China and Russia will continue to stand together, firmly safeguard the international system with the United Nations at its core, an international order based on international law, and continue to promote an equal and orderly multipolar world.
One expert suggests the reason why Russia and China are backing North Korea could be because of the North's role in countering threats from the West.
And I can only speculate that North Korea is playing an important role in this anti-Western strategy. In the immediate circumstances, it's providing weaponry, it's providing artillery, it's providing soldiers, and of course, it's testing these short-range missiles for export for use in other battlefields as well. So it may be that North Korea is simply useful in this respect. both the great powers, China and Russia.
On Friday, Xi and other world leaders will attend the annual Victory Day military parade in Moscow to mark the 80th anniversary of the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. This will be the first time in 10 years that a Chinese leader is attending the event. North Korean ambassador to Russia is also expected to be there. The South Korean government earlier said it had received an invitation from Russia, but decided not to attend. This is likely because sending a senior official to the parade showcasing Russia's military capabilities could in itself send the wrong signal, especially at a time when Pyongyang and Moscow have been continuing arms cooperation, which is a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. 배은지, Arirang News.
And South Korea, meanwhile, has denounced North Korea for its latest launch of missiles, which took place Thursday morning and marks the regime's fourth such test for this year. The Unification Ministry on this Friday asserted the launch violates UN Security Council resolutions and undermines peace on the Korean peninsula. North Korea's state media, for its part, reported also on this Friday that Kim Jong-un oversaw a test of short-range ballistic missiles and long-range artillery back on Thursday, coinciding with the launches detected by South Korea. Kim also reportedly stressed the significance of strengthening the combat readiness of his regime's nuclear forces. In other news, the station you're watching, Arirang TV, has joined the campaign to support recovery efforts in Hadonggun County, Gyeongsang-Namdo Province, following the region's devastating forest fires back in March. According to the Hadonggun County office on this Friday, its mayor has shared gratitude for Arirang TV's donation of 2 million won, or some $1,400 raised voluntarily by its employees. Up next, in the third installment of our coverage of an ancient diplomatic mission from Korea to neighboring Japan, our correspondent Song Yu-jin takes us to an exhibition that further explores this past art of diplomacy. Do take a look.
These paintings offer a glimpse into the original Joseon Tongsinsa missions, depicting the formal procession and the ships that carried the envoys across the sea to Japan. For those curious about how these centuries-old diplomatic journeys help bridge the two countries, you can step back in time here. So this exhibition, titled Bonds of the Heart, Waves of Resonance, currently on here at the Seoul Museum of History, is actually the largest ever exhibition held on the Joseon Tongsinsa. And it is also this museum's biggest exhibition since its opening in 2002. More than 100 artifacts from both Korea and Japan are on display, some of them listed on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register.
The Tongsinsa missions were launched after the Indian War, at a time when Japan was still viewed as a sworn enemy. But Joseon decided to restore diplomatic ties for the peace and stability of its people. Those efforts to rebuild trust is what we focused on.
The three-part exhibition traces the history of the 12 Tongsinsa missions from the 17th to 19th centuries, from their dispatch and sea voyage to cultural exchanges in Japan and their return home.
As the missions continued, mutual understanding grew, and many of the artifacts on display, such as the handwritten exchanges and literary works by the envoys, reflect that deepening relationship.
That human connection is captured in this painting, collected by the late Korean historian Shin Gi-soo. Shin donated over 100 artifacts related to the Joseon Tongsinsa to the Osaka Museum of History.
This painting shows an everyday interaction. An envoy on horseback is greeted by a Japanese citizen, almost like an autograph signing. While we have many records of formal diplomacy, there's little that shows how ordinary people connected with the envoys.
The first part of Bonds of the Heart, Waves of Resonance will close on May 25th. The second and final phase will open on May 27th with new artifacts until June 29th. Song Yu-jin, Arirang News.
The nights on the royal grounds of palaces here in Seoul are more beautiful than the days, and our An Sung-jin has pictures to prove it.
Promoting harmony. That's what the name of main gate of Changgyeong Palace, Hongwamun, means. One of the main palaces in Seoul, the Changgyeong, used to be the living quarters for the royal family during the Joseon dynasty. Though its historical values and beauty shine during the day, once the sun goes down, the palace's roof tiles, or kiwa, glisten in the moonlight. Starting from this year, the Moonlight Lotus Show at Cheonggyeong Palace has become a regular night tour program. The enchanting media art illuminates Chundangji Pond. Scenes of blossoming flowers sparkle on the serene pond backdrop, and petals fall to the sound effect of a water drop. The night tour program encapsulates the palace's scenery through media art facades and revolves around the theme of harmony between tradition and modernity.
I really enjoy it's very good creation and with numeric art, and it was a surprise because I went only to visit the palace and the.
I didn't know they were doing this today, but it's so beautiful.
I just came here with my girlfriend, but I'd want to come back again. It'll be a great memory for us.
The glass greenhouse resembles a treasure chest floating above the illuminated water surface. Such programs at night open up the opportunity to soak in the virtue and the beauty of the palace through various visual attractions.
I think one reason why these night tours are so popular is because unlike the bustling daytime view, the night view offers something different, serenity and peacefulness. That's why we want to further expand our programs.
Even though night tours will be offered through the entire year, those who want to see the media art facade will have to go before May 18th or wait till September when the program resumes. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. Tensions between India and Pakistan are escalating, with both sides reporting drone and missile attacks. On Thursday, India announced that its air defenses had successfully intercepted drone and missile attacks from Pakistan targeting military installations. However, Pakistan denied these allegations and also said it had downed 25 Indian drones. On the same day, India carried out airstrikes in parts of Punjab and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. This came a day after India claimed to have struck 9 terrorist infrastructure sites in Pakistan in response to the massacre of 26 individuals, mostly Indian tourists, by militants on April 22nd. The international community has urged both countries to de-escalate the situation, but both sides have expressed intentions to respond forcefully. In the Russia-Ukraine conflict, U.S. President Donald Trump has called for an immediate 30-day unconditional ceasefire. The announcement follows a phone conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. On Thursday local time, President Trump urged both Russia and Ukraine to agree to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, warning that failure to comply would result in additional sanctions from the United States and its allies. In the announcement on his Truth Social account, he emphasized that both nations would be held accountable for respecting the ceasefire. He also expressed willingness to facilitate negotiations toward a broader peace agreement. President Zelensky confirmed his call with President Trump earlier and said Ukraine remains willing to negotiate. Zelensky also said the ratified minerals deal with the U.S. was a truly historic document that opens up many new opportunities. The conversation between the two leaders came just as the Kremlin proposed a limited 3-day ceasefire to coincide with the 80th anniversary of Russia's Victory Day. Finally, the LA 28 Organizing Committee announced on Thursday that the opening ceremony of the 2028 Olympic Games will take place simultaneously at 2 iconic venues, the historic Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum and the modern SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. This will mark the first dual-venue approach in Olympic history. The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum will become the first venue to host 3 opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games separately. LA 28 chairperson Casey Wasserman stated that utilizing both venues showcases the rich sporting history and innovative spirit of Los Angeles and aims to create an unforgettable experience for athletes and fans worldwide. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
We've seen a rapid shift in the weather picture lately. Today, we face strong winds and heavy rain across the country. Jeju Island saw harsh weather with powerful waves crashing ashore. While the rain will mostly stop in the southern regions in Jeju by tonight, it's expected to linger in the capital area until early tomorrow, and parts of Gangwon-do could see rain into the afternoon. While daytime highs in the capital were nearly 10 degrees lower than yesterday, and temperatures will stay below the norms through the weekend. For a closer look, Seoul and Daejeon wake up to a low of 12 degrees, Daegu and Busan at 14 degrees Celsius. Daytime highs in the capital will be getting up to 15 degrees under cloudy skies, but Busan and Jeju will be topping out at 19 degrees under partly sunny skies. Next week looks to be more promising with big gaps between lows and highs. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. As always, thank you for watching.